What's going on? It's Dre Smith, and here's a word on resolving conflict in your relationship, part 1. Resolving conflict in your relationship is less about being right and more about communicating effectively. There is no point in communicating with anyone if your communication is ineffective. Actually, ineffective communication causes more harm and more frustration than it does good, no matter what your intentions are. Whether you're trying to communicate a bomb threat or a simple message in your relationship, it doesn't matter how correct or accurate that message is if it can't be communicated effectively to the person who needs to receive it. So in this 4-part mini-series, I'm going to walk you through how to solve conflict in your relationship through the key elements of effective communication. So the first part is observation. What are you observing others say or do that is enriching or not enriching your life? But the key to this is being able to articulate the observation without evaluation and judgment. I'm going to tell you a quick story so you can understand where I'm coming from. A principal and his staff were having communication issues, so the school superintendent hired a mediator to help resolve the conflict. So before talking to the principal, the mediator decided to talk to the staff first. The first thing he asked him was, name one observable behavior the principal is doing that conflicts with your needs. The first teacher opened up quickly and said, he has a big mouth. The mediator answered and said, I appreciate you telling me the size of his mouth, but I asked you for an observable behavior that conflicts with your needs. Then the second teacher answered and said, oh, I know what he means. He means he talks too much. The mediator looked at him and said, too much. I wonder how much is too much. I appreciate your evaluation. Again, I asked for an observable behavior. Then the third teacher said he thinks only he has something worth saying. The mediator answered, I appreciate you telling me what you think he thinks, but inferring what a person thinks is not an observable behavior. And lastly, a fourth teacher spoke up and said, he just wants to be the center of attention. The mediator answered back and said, I appreciate you telling me what you feel like he wants, but I still have not heard an observable behavior. After that, the teacher said, this is hard. So the teacher and the mediator worked together to identify specific behaviors free from evaluation, and they came up with one. They said the principal told stories about his childhood and war experiences during faculty meetings, resulting in meetings running sometimes 20 minutes over the time that they were scheduled. So when the mediator asked, has it ever been communicated in that way? They said, no, it's only been communicated through evaluative comments. So during the next meeting, the mediator decided to sit in, and within minutes of the meeting, he saw exactly what the teachers were talking about. But to his surprise, none of the staff were saying anything. You can see it all over their face that they were irritated, but none of them spoke up and said anything. So finally, after minutes of listening to the principal talk, the mediator interrupted and said, isn't anybody going to say anything? And then the teacher blurted out, Ed, you have a big mouth. A few minutes later, the teachers were able to clarify to the principal the specific behavior that made them feel a certain way. And his answer was, why didn't anyone tell me before? The story is here to illustrate that a lot of your conflict is due to the way you observe and communicate your observations. Observing specific behaviors are so important, but communicating that behavior without evaluation or judgment is even more important. Because no matter how true your message is, judgment will never be effective. Because whenever there's a judge, there's always a prosecution and a defendant. And if you're taking that position in your conversation, then you're not working as a team and you'll be working against one another. So instead of going home and saying you're messy, you say when you take a shower, you leave your clothes on the floor, which result in a pile of clothes at the end of the week. Your messy is not a specific behavior. Leaving my underwear on the floor is a specific behavior. So while this is something that you can't cure overnight, especially when emotions are involved, do your best to think about specific behaviors and observe specific behaviors and try to communicate them in the most effective way. Observation is key, and identifying specific behaviors is key. And that's a word. Thank you so much for watching this entire video. If you want to continue to receive a word, make sure you subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the podcast, and follow me on Instagram. You can also request topics, learn more about upcoming events, and learn more about what I have going on by visiting my site, itsdresmith.com. Remember, you can change your life with a simple word.